I've been telling you all for years, since I started my YouTube channel, that we are in the middle of World War III, but most people just don't realize it yet. Because I think that World War III will look much different than World War I or World War II. Don't get me wrong, you may still see some battles on the battlefield, soldiers on the ground, tanks, and you name it. But a lot of World War III will be fought in other ways. So up until now, I understand why people have been skeptical when I say that we're in the middle of World War III. I understand why some people don't really feel the same way I do, or they don't view things in the way that I do. I get it. But now, here today, I believe it is undeniable that we are in World War III. And some people are still in denial, and I don't know what they're waiting for. I think that they feel as if we're going to get some type of official announcement that World War III has started. Like Biden is going to old man shuffle his way on stage, get lost trying to find a microphone, and then make the announcement that World War III has begun. I'm serious, man. Come on. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? What people need to understand is when you're in the middle of these conflicts, sometimes you don't know what the conflicts are called. History will look back on this and label this as World War III. And then just take a look at what's going on. We have British missiles blowing up North Korean soldiers in Ukraine. Now, how can you look at that and tell me that's not a world war? British missiles, French missiles, U.S. missiles blowing up North Korean soldiers in Ukraine. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what's going on in Ukraine. And then hell, look at what's going on in the rest of the world. Not to mention what's going on in the Middle East with Israel and Iran and Lebanon and all of these other countries. When you take a step back and you look at everything that's going on, this is a world war. And there are so many conflicts raging throughout the world that a lot of us, including myself, have no idea about. Every day I'm learning about new wars and new military conflicts happening in parts of the earth. Sometimes I didn't even know these parts of the earth existed. So there's a lot going on. The world is at war, and that is undeniable. You might not want to call it World War III. You can call it whatever you want, but the world is at war. The entire world is now involved. But before I go any further, let's go ahead and roll this news clip really quickly, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
For the first time since its war with Russia began, the National Parliament canceled its Friday sessions. Residents, businesses, and office owners in Kyiv have also been warned of the threat. There's also fears that this new violence could spill into neighboring countries like Poland, where U.S. troops are stationed, by the way. With us is senior national security contributor, retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton. General, great to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Hannah. Good to be with you always this morning.
Always great to see you. So a lot of talk about this new missile technology fired at Ukraine. You have vast military experience, sir. How much of a threat does it pose, not only to Ukraine, but of course, other neighboring countries like Poland?
Well, I would call it's more jarring. I don't think it's significant. I don't think it's, frankly, a silver bullet or a game changer. But what we're seeing, Hannah, is really both sides trying to better their position. Especially first, as the onset of Russia now, or excuse me, onset of winter now, hits the region, of course, and then you've also got obviously the election of President Trump, and the administration will take power on the 21st of January. So it's as if both sides are trying to improve their position as what we will anticipate coming out of President Trump and his administration. A very strong effort to find a negotiated settlement to the war. The war now is beyond now 1,000 days, and there's been significant losses on both sides. So I think that's part of what you're seeing here is this back and forth.
So let's go to that new meeting between Trump and NATO's chief. Putin directly threatening the U.S. NATO military base in Poland that I believe just opened a short while ago. American troops, are they safe at that base in Poland, General?
They are safe. We've got significant missile defense and anti-missile defense capabilities there. We've got significant land power and air power there. This base you're referring to was actually established under the Obama administration in 2009 as we more closely aligned with a very key ally and a NATO partner, Poland. It's the first U.S. permanent base in Poland, and it literally just opened up on November 13th, just a few days or so ago. And so what you're seeing here is you're seeing these pronouncements, this declaratory pronouncements from Putin. It reminds me of the Cold War era, and back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s from then the Soviet leaders and so forth. But again, I think he's trying to rattle, perhaps the NATO, alliance. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's really coming at a point now in this conflict where he's really running out of options. He has lost 700,000 Russian soldiers, either killed in action or wounded. That's extraordinary in these 2 years. And so I think that's what you're seeing here. On the other hand, President Zelensky and Ukraine are trying to improve their position, as I mentioned at the top of our conversation, with regard to what I think they anticipate will be a U.S.-led or even a President Trump-led efforts to negotiate a settlement to this long war.
So how likely is it that the U.S. could get drawn even further into Russian aggression? We've seen the British military saying we're ready to fight if something happens. Do you think we're in the same position?
No, I think what they're talking about is the Article 5 of the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, declaratory, long-standing policy, whereby if one of our NATO members are attacked, then it's considered as if all the members are attacked. That's really what this is about. I do not anticipate anything at all in terms of the United States or other NATO members getting directly involved with this conflict. But what I do see is continued, stiffen NATO alliance, certainly under a Biden administration, but we're going to see that continue under a Trump administration, maybe through a different path, as I mentioned, through negotiations. That's why you see this diplomatic efforts pursuing right now in terms of President Trump meeting with the NATO secretary. You also have the NATO ministers themselves meeting on the heels of what that was a recent Russian intercontinental, or it was actually an intermediate range ballistic missile. But let's put it into context. Last week, this weekend time, Russia launched the second largest strike of ballistic missiles and drones against Ukraine that went after Ukraine's energy production capability on the face of what's going to be a very tough cold winter.
Tell us about your thoughts on Putin's escalation with that new missile, bringing in North Korean troops. Now European officials suspecting Russia is behind internet cable cutting in the Baltic Sea. A lot of things happening in a short amount of time. Your thoughts?
Very troubling, significant, and I think this is where it's very important that the NATO alliance remains strong and unified, and is doing so. But again, this is President Putin. Again, this saber rattling thing. But by the way, his threats, however, are not empty, because remind our viewers, Russia has the largest nuclear missile inventory and nuclear weapon inventory in the world.
Now, when you listen to these military experts right now, you got to be very careful. Just like the guy we just heard from. You have to understand that a lot of these people, they have a lot of money wrapped up in war, okay? They got certain stocks, certain defense contracts. So it's in their best interest to have war. And at the same time, even though they will give you tidbits of the truth, they're not going to be completely honest with you. They're going to bluff about certain things. For example, him saying that new missile that Russia launched the other day was not a game changer, that's complete BS. I almost turned the news clip off right there. Because what Russia dropped on Ukraine the other day, that is a game changer. And let me let you in on a little secret that a lot of people don't know yet, because for some reason this is not being widely reported. Russia let the U.S. know before they dropped that new experimental missile on Ukraine. Russia let the U.S. know beforehand. What did the U.S. do? Nothing. You want to know why? Because we couldn't do anything. We didn't have a missile defense system that could stop the weapon that they just dropped on Ukraine. So that's a little secret, and it's not necessarily a secret that you can't find, but if you look, you will find the truth that America was warned. We just couldn't do anything to stop it. So yes, this is most definitely a game changer. Now, I'm not saying that America and our allies don't have some of the same stuff, because we do. But to sit here and try to downplay, what just happened, I don't think that's helpful for anyone. I mean, you don't want to show your hand. You don't want to show Russia that, hey, yeah, we are concerned about, this missile you just dropped. You want to act all nonchalantly, but let me tell you right now, behind the scenes, there's no nonchalantness going on. You don't have countries passing out pamphlets telling their citizens to prepare for World War III because, people are being nonchalant and they don't think that this is a game changer. What Putin did, well, let's reverse back. What Biden did by allowing Ukraine to use long-range missiles into Russia, that was a game changer. Russia responded with a game changer of their own. And now we're sitting here waiting like, okay, what's next? Did Ukraine get the message? Is Ukraine going to continue using these long-range missiles? Or are we going to dial this back? Because I don't think Ukraine wants any part of what Russia could possibly do if they continue striking with these long-range missiles. And now, unfortunately, due to the fact that most of these weapons that are being used in this war, they're coming from NATO, right? NATO is supplying Ukraine with all of these weapons. So Russia's gotten to the point where they're like, hey, why do we have to keep pretending like this is a war between Russia and Ukraine when this is obviously Russia versus NATO? So it took a couple of years, and it may even take a little bit longer, but we're slowly reaching that point. And over the past week or so, we are very quickly approaching the point where this spills out and we see some type of attack on a NATO facility. And I believe it may be the facility in Poland that I reported to you all about, but we don't know. But we are on the fast track now. It was slow moving. It was a slow process at first. But unless something happens, something drastic happens over the coming days, we are on a fast track to seeing some type of strike on a NATO U.S. facility somewhere in the region, somewhere maybe throughout Europe. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen, because once that happens, I don't even want to think about what the response would be. But for now, you let me know what you think down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next video.